sounded like there were some personality issues between Vice President Harris and Governor Shapiro. Nothing particularly new about that. Also, he's an ambitious guy. Surprise, surprise. He's a politician. He's probably planning his own presidential run. And maybe she figured that wouldn't come off so well. I think part of the problem is she allowed the narrative of him to get too far. And he faced a lot of criticism. He is Jewish. He's voiced support for Israel. The really anti-Israel voices on the left were coming after him with some terrible names, Genocide Josh and the like.
Welcome to the Debrief, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering this week and where the story's going next. I'm Jim Antle, and I'm joined today by magazine managing editor David Mark. David, we have a vice presidential pick on the Democratic side, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Talk a little bit about what he brings to the table.
In theory, Governor Walz of Minnesota brings a variety of qualities to Kamala Harris, the vice president and soon-to-be Democratic nominee. He really helps nail down the liberal base. It's interesting, he was a congressman from southern Minnesota, fairly moderate to conservative region for about 12 years, had a pretty reasonably centrist voting record in Congress. Once he became governor of Minnesota, he moved to the left, and particularly after Democrats got full control over state government, they moved hard left. They've done some school lunch programs for kids on abortion policy. It's maybe the most permissive state in the country at this point on transgender issues, something similar. So he's really made a name for himself nationally. It's basically saying to the Democratic faithful, hey, you don't have to worry about me. Unlike some of the other picks that she was looking at, he's there. I think that's most important. He also is a military veteran. He was in the Minnesota National Guard for 24 years. There's been some controversy about his the specifics of his time in service, but in theory, that takes some of the criticism of Democrats off the table.
So Walz was one of the names that was mentioned before Harris made this pick, but a lot of people were thinking Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro would be the choice, or failing that, a governor or senator from a state that's believed to be in play. I know Minnesota has been discussed as a potential battleground state, but I think less so now that Harris has replaced Biden. What might have been some of the thinking that got Shapiro and others bypassed?
Shapiro was a natural figure to at least look at. He is deeply popular, highly popular in Pennsylvania. He was only elected governor in 2022, so he's relatively new. He was state attorney general before that and held some local offices in the legislature and county commissioner. So he's been an elected official for going on 20 years now. And he's very popular, not just in the big cities in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. He's actually traveled around to the more rural areas of Pennsylvania. And in his 2022 gubernatorial victory, he won pretty big there over admittedly a weak Republican opponent, but he did win big. So he's naturally somebody that you're going to look at. I think that it sounded like there were some personality issues between Vice President Harris and Governor Shapiro. Nothing particularly new about that. Also, he's an ambitious guy. Surprise, surprise. He's a politician. He's probably planning his own presidential run. And maybe she figured that wouldn't come off so well. I think part of the problem is she allowed the narrative of him to get too far. And he faced a lot of criticism. He is Jewish. He's voiced support for Israel. The really anti-Israel voices on the left were coming after him with some terrible names, Genocide Josh and the like. And there was some thinking that might help kill his candidacy. It doesn't seem like that was really the reason, but the Harris campaign, by allowing that kind of marinate and get out there, it made it seem like they were pressured by their own far left flank, whether that's true or not. I don't know how they could have prevented that. This all happened in a matter of 48 hours or so, but it is a problem for them.
So there's a sense in which both former President Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have, in their vice presidential picks, sort of doubled down rather than trying to ideologically diversify their tickets.
Yeah, and I think that's just a reflection of where American politics is now. People want political comfort food. They want what they already like. It's the reason MSNBC on the left and Fox News on the right have bigger followings at this point for than CNN. That's a whole other conversation. Sure. But people want to hear what they agree with. They're not really looking to be challenged. Also, you're not going to change many people's minds. People are either going to vote for Donald Trump or they're not. there's not too many people who could be persuaded.
Right.
Now, some people might just stay home, and some people might not vote. That's sort of a different category. Similar with Kamala Harris and even outgoing President Joe Biden. People are pretty well set on them. They might not vote at all, but they're unlikely to switch from, say, Kamala Harris to Donald Trump. So I think people are just pretty much set in their ways, and the vice presidential picks are a reflection of that.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
You can read David and the rest of our political team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.